Hey, everybody, welcome to View from the Top podcast, where we help growth-minded men who desire momentum in their business, their family, and their finances get through the valleys and up the mountain to their very own view from the top. I'm so glad you're listening in with us again today. Hey, listen, we have a fantastic topic that we're going to cover today around intentional conferences or events or in face-to-face person meetups. So maybe many of you have gone to events, you've gone to conferences, and you walk away going, man, I feel like it was some good stuff, but I kind of missed it. I think we're going to drop some really good things today on some things we're learning and that we've discovered on how to make those face-to-face meetups very, very intentional and get the most value and make them effective for yourself. So listen in as we touch on this topic and dive deep on this topic today. So let's get Big A, the host with the most, in the studio. Big A, welcome.
Wally, I'm pretty amped up right now. You know I'm running on 3 days of adrenaline. We're recording this 2 days after our live event, and I'm telling you, man, I haven't come down out of the clouds yet. What a great time.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Had. Yeah. I need to calm down, though. I need to rest. I'm glad you cleared my calendar for a couple of days. I need to take a break for a minute and catch my breath. But it was awesome. I can't wait to talk about it here in a few minutes. You had a good week? Did you enjoy it?
Oh, man. Normally, I would be right in your shoes about like, I'm exhausted. And normally I am. But this event, for some reason, so it's the Sharpens Mastermind live event. It runs, some guys come in early on Thursday because of flight schedules on Friday. So it starts on Friday around lunchtime. But some guys came in Thursday night. So we start Thursday night, like meet up for dinner, guys. We actually went K1 electric go-kart racing.
Oh, yeah.
And we had
you
like
had a
18...
shot at it and you blew it. You were going to win and you blew it.
Yeah,
did you do that to be kind, or did you really throw the race?
I didn't throw the race, man. My cart just stopped. Like it stopped like 3 or 4 times. It was crazy. Anyway, I don't want to go down that road. I learned a whole lesson there, different age, different conversation. But yeah, man, we got to like hang out with dinner time with, I don't know how many guys were there, 30 guys. And then a bunch of us, 18 of us went and raced these electric go-karts, which was fantastic. Just a good time of bonding together. And then Friday, around lunchtime, we started off the event for the weekend and we finished up Sunday morning after a fantastic, just a spiritual devotion talk by Curtis Honeycutt, one of the guys in ISI. Man, it was great. Yeah, I'm normally wiped, but I don't know. We're going to break it down a little bit here. I think I know some of the reasons why I'm not this time, but all my family was home. Like my daughters came home. My grandkids were here on Sunday when I got home. Yeah. Normally I'm like
Jack
going to take a nap.
And, you even missed a few minutes of that. Thank you for that. I don't think I thanked you for that.
Yeah, it was good.
Listen, don't get me wrong. I'm not like wiped out. It's the adrenaline, though. You get amped up. We work on this thing for months and months, and then the event happens, and then you hear all these stories, and we're going to break some of those down here in a minute. I guess the thing I'm saying is, man, when I crash and burn here in a day or two, I'm going to really hit the wall. I'm going to need a nap or something, get in the jacuzzi and get myself fired back up. But I'm still amped up, man. That's the reason we're doing this interview. Around face value of, face-to-face, the intentional meetups. And so, yeah. Hey, I heard one of the guys, though, say something. I'm curious to what your thoughts are around this. He said his wife wasn't real excited that he came. And I'm like, what do you mean she's not excited? Why would she not be excited? He didn't really get into it, whether she was jealous or envious or just didn't want him to come, selfish. I don't know what the reason was, but I didn't tell him kind of what I'm going to share here. I just kind of listened. But Robin's not always excited about me leaving either, to be honest with you. She loves for me to do personal development and professional development. She's never really said I'm jealous, or she's never really said I'm envious, but she likes to be with me, right? And she can't always go because she's got responsibilities here. But I go out and she supports me. But it's not like she's turning flips that I'm leaving either. And so how does Sonia respond to you being away?
Yeah, it was interesting the way you posed that, because often what I've experienced, and maybe this guy experienced the same thing, my wife, Sonia's not been like real tickled about me going to these types of events, but usually the after effects right? It's not that I went. So after the fact, she's usually good that I went. It's usually like the beginning of it, right?
Yeah,
Like, oh man. And just those, I think it's just those realizations, especially if you have kids at home and all of that, like like you've got some added responsibilities and things yeah. And I think there's probably, Sonia's admitted in the past that there's been situations where she's like, man, I'd love to go hang out with a bunch of women for 3 days that are like-minded and have some goals they want to accomplish in life. And, it's just like, imagine how cool that would be. And she just hasn't been able to discover or find that specific thing yet. But that early in our marriage, man, it was a point of
more
contention.
Difficult.
For sure. Yeah, very much so.
There's a cost associated with it, when you're traveling and then time away. They've got added responsibilities. So nobody's throwing a stone at our spouses for feeling this. It's a normal thing. Robin is just like Sonia, though. When you come back, she is so excited to hear the stories. She's excited for my personal growth and development. We have great conversations around it. She knows the mission that we're trying to accomplish, and she sees that being fulfilled. So it's a really cool thing. I think our word of encouragement to the guys is really kind of lay it out there in a way that it's going to be beneficial for the whole family. It's not something just a guy's weekend away. This is something that you're going to learn different skills and traits and have connections and networking that's going to open up opportunities for your family to grow. And so I always warn the guys that don't go home like, you're a pressure cooker. You go home and you're just wide open because they haven't been there. They haven't experienced it. And you got to dole it out slowly. And I'm wise enough, even with Robin, to do that. I could come home and be like a bottle rocket without a stick on it, just everywhere. But instead, I'm like, hey, this was good. The next day, I'll drop a couple of other things. And the next night, maybe for dinner, we'll go over a couple of things. And you got to dole it out slowly because the truth is you can't describe it, right? You have to be there to experience some things. And they're just so amazing. They're like, yeah, sure. I bet it was that good. But man, it was really good. I want us to talk about a little bit of it as we kind of get into it.
Yeah, I think it's good. Why don't we break down kind of the different kinds of events that people go to just generically? And then because I think we could say, face-to-face meetups are great and they're fantastic. But I think there's definitely, if there's no intentionality behind it, it just becomes a social event. And I think,
I'm not interested in that either.
Yeah, and they can be important. I think social events can be fun
good,
and important part of our lives.
That's not what I'm interested in.
No, we're not talking about
intentional,
that.
Right.
Yeah, I think that idea of being intentional meetups and that means that you can go to any event with an intention, but if the organization of the event is not set up to support your intentions, it's kind of you're fighting, battle uphill all the way. So identifying those events, right, that align with your intentions and what the organization of the event is, I think is really, really key. We had we had 2 different types of events. We did our ISI Mastermind live event over the weekend, which you talked about. But then even earlier in the week, last week, we went to just a small dinner meetup kind of mastermind that was set up very intentionally as well. And there was a lot of value in that as well. What do you think are some of the ingredients of why is face-to-face important? Because we do a lot of but we do a lot of virtual weekly calls in our masterminds.
Sure, and they're great.
Yeah. But then twice a year, at least twice a year, actually in 2024, we have more planned. So I'm excited about announcing some of that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. But we have at least 2 face-to-face throughout the year planned, and they are so impactful. Why is face-to-face important? And then what do you think are some of the ingredients that make a good face-to-face intentional event?
Yeah, the first reason I think that it's important is God created us to be in community, right? He didn't design us to be in isolation. And Zoom is fine, right? Meetups, whatever you meet on, how you meet is fine. But nothing takes the place of in-person, face-to-face, just to get to know each other intimately. We get together and hang out. And you can hug somebody and shake their hand. You can see their body expressions. You can, just embrace them. You can talk to them at length. And there's just no barriers, when you have meals with people, you're in these small groups and you can just hang out. So I think that it's vital that even if you do the vast majority, which we do virtual, I think periodically, and we try to do it at least every 6 months. And then we do have smaller venues in between just to get together with people one-on-one. The other thing is your focus is there when you're in person, right? Oftentimes, and I know I've called guys out, they'll be multitasking or looking at something else or opening an email, or they'll be talking or chatting or writing something in the chat box. But man, you have your total devotion when you're with somebody in person. You're there. You can't hide. You can't work on something else. You're there. So you're mentally and emotionally engaged with people when you're there in person. And the other thing is, it's just good to be able to physically touch somebody. When I say hug their neck, I'm a hugger, shake their hand. There's just something about that forms a bond. As far as being intentional, I think some of the ingredients that you were referring to, and we literally spend, 2 to 2.5 months, maybe a little longer, from start to finish on putting together a little shout out for our team here. Brooke leads our team, and then we have 3 amazing team members that help Brooke. They're phenomenal. And Brooke is a master at putting together everything that she needs. And she's done it so many. This was our 15th live event, not counting the smaller events.
That's no joke.
Yeah, that's that's a lot of planning, when you got 100 and plus 125, sometimes 100, sometimes 85, sometimes it varies. But it doesn't matter if it's 85 or it's 125. No. It still involves a lot of detail. But I got tickled at Brooke because she sent me some pictures, and she had a map, like a schematic drawn of the room with the tables and where the people were going to sit and where the placements were for everything. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like these are blueprints, for this live event. But as a result of that, we didn't have any hiccups, right? Everything was down pat. Scripted out for the master of ceremonies, scripted out for the audio guy, scripted out for the video guy, scripted out for you and I as we were speakers on the stage, all of the TED Talks, all of the live event speakers, the keynote guys had it. They knew exactly the time, where they were to be, where they were to get their mic. It was like she could have written a book, and you could have written a book, all the details, Wally, that you and Brooke and the team put into this. And so that's very intentional. Even one of the guys from the audience made a comment to our sound guy. He thanked him. His name's Ben. He's going to be marrying my granddaughter. I'm pretty excited about that.
That's right.
But they said, hey, Ben, normally the sound guy doesn't get recognized, especially from the floor, but we didn't notice you. And that's a compliment because there was no hiccups with the sound, right? Or no hiccups with the video. Caleb was there doing that. Your son-in-law was helping with that, did a remarkable job. My point in giving you this level of detail is that we were very intentional, right? And that's some of the ingredients that go into it. Not only that, but if I could talk just a little further about the content. We talked about connecting is important. Engaging, though, is more important. You can't really have the transformation that we're trying to get if we don't have a level of first connection. Second of all, engaging. And I gave 3 examples when I gave a keynote speech of times in my life that I wasn't engaged, and I changed that and became very engaged, and it became a highlight of my life. And the organization didn't change, I did. And it was because of that level of engagement. And so that was kind of the theme around what we were trying to do. And this time it was all about profit peaks. That was the theme of the event, talking about how to be more resourceful, how to scale your business, how to make more money. There's nothing wrong with making money. A lot of people don't even like to talk about it. They're like, oh man, that's wrong. There's nothing wrong with making money at all. We've really dealt in relationship building in the past and other areas, but this time our focus was about how to scale your business and how to make more profit. And so because of that, we were able to enlist some of the men in our organization. I believe we had 7 18-minute talks. They're called TED Talks, that they get up and make a presentation. Very concise, very pointed, very directed, actionable steps so that it's applicable to you and you can formulate this in your business. All that was very intentional. That just didn't happen. We just didn't ask 7 guys, hey, get up and talk about whatever's on your heart. These guys even had to send us their slide deck. They sent us videos of them making the presentation, kind of practicing. They sent us their script. So we knew exactly what it was that they were going to do, and it flowed seamlessly because of that level of intentionality.
And they crushed it.
Yeah, they crushed it. Man, they got up there. Listen, I was so excited. I was taking notes like crazy myself. There was so much that they shared in such a concise period of time that it was remarkable. And these guys got a lot of accolades and a lot of applause from the audience because they got up there and crushed it. But Wally, here's the thing. There's so many people today that put on events that just sell you something. They want to get you there. They want to entertain you for a few minutes. Entertainment is good for a minute, but you've got to have something of substance to keep people's attention today. And that's what we're trying to do here at View from the Top.
Yeah. That was I could go on and on about women. I think another ingredient that feeds into this whole idea of being intentional. I know that this necessarily might not fit every type of conference or venue or type of group meetup, but when we, as an organization, we're very, I don't want to overuse the word intentional, but it's in our title today, and it's all of what we're doing. So when you talked about the words connect and engage and transform, those are very intentional words, very intentionally spread throughout the weekend, interwoven and stitched throughout how we presented and what we did. Alongside of that is our five, we have our core values, of course, as a business. So that drove our execution of the event. So if you're putting on an event or you're attending an event and there's not like a really solid set of core values behind that, it's probably not going to be a very intentional event. And then we've actually got our content pillars, if you will, right? Some people call them domains, some people call them other things, but we call them pillars. So there's these 5 pillars, which are personal, relational, professional, financial, spiritual. And so we encapsulate all of that around our communication. The way that we are engaging with each other at the event. So it's not set up to be. It's very intentional about how we meet. Obviously, people have to. Every one of the guys has to take the initiative, right? Because there's some marginal time that we've created that gives guys just free time to be able to.
That's intentional.
Network.
Also.
It is, and to interconnect. Right. And we actually did a much better job at that this time. I think that was something that the guys had asked for in the past and created some margin around, from one block of activity to another, some more margin. They really, really liked that. But
Well, it was funny back in the old days when we were doing this just on a shoestring. I'd have their butt in the seat and a speaker up there every 30 minutes for 12 hours. It was like, Big A, can we please go to the bathroom?
I remember. I was in the audience then.
I know. It was like, no, man, we got to have more. We got to have more. And I was like, these guys were like, hey, I'm ready to jump off a bridge on a sword if you don't let me go to the bathroom for a second. And we learned from that. We listened to the guys.
Yeah.
Yes, we scaled it.
I think that has a lot to, you asked earlier, I think there's a couple of factors, but I think that has a lot to do with why I'm not as exhausted.
Yeah.
Is because it actually, having that marginal time actually makes it more relational versus institutional.
Yeah, it's more digestible also, right? You can absorb, we can only absorb so much. And so now I think we've dialed it in a little bit. We're trying to learn. Surely the good is after 15, we've learned a few things, right? And so now we're giving a little more margin and then making it more digestible.
Yeah. There was I think another ingredient in there that one of the guys who's one of our facilitators, he facilitates 2 groups, David. He gave us an audio message. Was it last night? Yesterday sometime, I think? I can't remember. But he sent it to both you and I.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, he'd been to a number of events. He's a facilitator, so he's got the guy's ears. He's like, there was something about this event this year that God has, I don't want to use the word movement, but there's something that God is doing inside of Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind that you can feel. It's a tangible, not a feeling, it feels like it's a real thing. Like there's something there. And I know I've been experiencing that. And I know you've been experiencing that. Sure. And I think at the event, we did it's going to seem like I'm going to go off on a tangent here for a minute, but bear with me. We did the Working Genius assessments a few months ago, probably 6 months ago now, whatever it was. We had Trace Blackmore did a master class on Working Genius. It was an hour long, and that's actually available. So please reach out to us at pod at viewfromthetop.com, or you can go to our View from the Top Facebook group, our private Facebook group for this podcast, which is if you go to viewfromthetop.com/group, just viewfromthetop.com/group, it'll forward you over to be able to join that Facebook group page. But anyway, if you reach out to us from one of those mediums, we'll be happy to give you access to that masterclass about Working Genius. And here's why. When we took the Working Genius assessment, it has 6 principles, and there's like 2 of those 6, right, fit into your genius, 2 fit into your competency, 2 fit into your frustrations. And when you and Brooke and I, as the leadership team, who's primarily responsible for making the decisions about the event, we have a whole team behind the scenes that does all the work that you mentioned before, a lot of the work you mentioned before, which I'm very grateful for. But in the leadership team, in that decision-making process, you and I and Brooke filled all of them except for 1. And recently, the last couple months, we brought in a new team member. His name is Brandon, who's also on the leadership team. This was his first live event, and he's in an advocacy, sales, acquisition type role for us at View from the Top and ISI Mastermind. And there's a whole story behind this about how God worked this all out. It was pretty amazing. But point is, the one working genius that we were missing in our team was enablement. In this event, that hole was plugged. Like that was filled. And
isn't that cool? It was the very thing we needed.
It's crazy.
And God gave it to us. It was
crazy.
Amazing.
And so
out our team.
I look at inside the Working Genius, there's I actually want to see if I can bring this up or not. But inside the Working Genius, there is the different types of work. So they go from like ideation to activation and then implementation or something in those orders. But we have that on our team, like completely filled. Like what I mean by that is the puzzle is complete in terms of covering all those aspects of work and every step of the work. And so when you think about how we're intentional about organizing and putting together and all those things, it's not that we're perfect, but because we have that complete puzzle on how we're able to look at work, it shows a complete picture and it just does a great job. I was just like, wow, okay.
We're not working out of our frustration.
That's right. Like we all take our part and we know what it is and we're able to work through those 3 primary areas of work successfully. And I'm like, man.
Again, we're overusing the word, I know, but everybody just has to get used to it for this episode. But we were very intentional about discovering what those gifts were and placing each person in the right role. And so that's exactly the reason that it sings along, like a well-oiled sewing machine, right? It's working because people are operating out of the zone of genius, not just out of their competence.
Yeah, and putting an event together like this is really just a big, huge project.
Right.
And so maybe it's not an event that you have, maybe it's a project that you're doing, in your business. As a listener, you're out there, oh yeah, I don't do events, so that doesn't apply. No, you're missing it. You're totally missing it. You are. Like the level of intentionality it takes to do a big project, to make a big shift, a big change in your business, to go to the next level, all those things, like having those pieces to the puzzle makes all the difference. All the difference.
And that's what we're trying to do today for the audience that's listening, is just be very intentional. Know exactly what it is that you want to accomplish. Be very focused. Get the right people around you, right? It's the who, not the how. Really enlist the people that are filling the gaps, And listen, here's the thing too. Everybody says, oh yeah, y'all do that. But listen, we didn't have that originally. When we first started, right? We limped along and we did things out of our frustration. We did things because, somebody had to do it, and it takes time. So here we are, a decade-year old now, and we're just now getting all the puzzle pieces together in order to accomplish the things that we want to do. So we kind of took the hard route. We don't want you necessarily to take the hard route. So be thinking about being very intentional about filling those roles in your business.
What are some of the live event that we did for ISI Mastermind? What were some of the activities that we did to help support the mission, right, and our values and our pillars? What are some of those activities that we did that other people might find value in orchestrating, whether it's in their organization and their own events or other events that they attend that they could be intentional about creating ahead of time?
Some of it comes out of some of the structure that we've built here. We've got a program that we designed called Come As You Will Be. And people are very intentional about picking aspirational goals in those 5 pillars of their life. It's kind of fun to talk about this particular event because this was a culmination of 3 years of working diligently to accomplish this first round of wins and transformations. And we actually celebrated there. And so that's one of the activities that we do that is very intentional. It was pretty cool, though, some of the activities that we did around that, some of the trophies that were given out, some of the recognitions, and it was emotional. A lot of the guys came up on stage, and there was a great amount of emotion that was around this because they would say, because I got so focused, my family now is winning. I'm a better dad. I'm a better husband. Our business is excelling. We've accomplished, and we've had to tweak the dials a little bit because we underestimated what we could do when we had this level of focus. And a lot of these guys blew right by their goals in 18 months rather than 36 months. Cool. And had to modify what it is that they were trying to accomplish. And I could give you success story after success story. Time doesn't allow today. But to see these guys stand up and say, hey, it was because I was intentional. It was because I was focused. It was because I had accountability around me. It was because I had guys cheering me on every single week, holding me accountable to the task that I said I was going to do.
How many times did you hear this weekend? I can't even count on my fingers. How many times did you hear individual guys say or allude to, it was because of my group. Without my group, I wouldn't have. I mean, can you even count them?
Dozens.
That's insane.
Yeah. There's no. Here's the thing: is because we are designed to be in community. Whether we admit it or not, we need people around us to help us accomplish all that we're capable of doing. Because the natural tendency is procrastination. It's like nobody's asking, nobody's going to call me out, nobody's going to hold me accountable. I'll do that next week, and then something else comes along and fills that slot. And before long, you just set it aside and you don't even accomplish it. And then you wake up 2 or 3 years later and you're not much better off, if any, than you were, previously. And these guys don't allow that. It's like, no, man, you said, Kevin, you were going to do this. And this is what you said your vision was. And you said this was priority in your life. And you said this is the thing that you want to accomplish for you and for your family. And you've got this purpose-driven statement, that this motivation, this mission that you're trying to accomplish. And we get tired sometimes and we procrastinate, but these guys won't allow us to do that. And because of those components, we're hugely successful and we're capable of doing even more than we think we are when we have that, inch wide and mile deep perception of the things that are priority to us in our life. And so I think when you're that intentional about anything, you can accomplish great things.
Man, that's so good. So good. Hey, Big A, I've got a few kind of most memorable moments of this last weekend for myself, but I'm really curious. What sticks out in your mind as a memorable moment this past weekend?
Wally, this is kind of funny. I had kind of a moment for myself. We started this 10 years ago. And if you go back and listen to a lot of the episodes prior to this one, I tell a little bit of the journey, but I didn't even want to do this, at all. I didn't set out to create this mastermind. Mm-hmm. I didn't. Matter of fact, I retired 13 years ago. And a lot of my buddies encouraged me to coach a few people, and that turned into doing a few podcast interviews, and that turned into, we have 15 or 16 groups now with men all over the country, even some international participants. And I kind of had a grandfather moment at the event. I was sitting there thinking, wow, what if I didn't listen to my buddies? What if I didn't listen to the urging of God saying, hey, you've got a few things to give? Like, what if I wasn't obedient? And I thought these guys wouldn't know each other. Now, you might in some other group or some other way, right? Of course, we don't want to ever limit what God can do, but I'm just saying in that setting, it wouldn't have been possible. And when I started thinking about all of the partnerships that had formed and the investments that guys are able to participate in now, and the vacations that are being taken with a lot of the guys, and the wives that have gotten to know each other, the kids that have gotten to know each other through the families, and people now are buying property together, making investments, and other guys are lending other companies money. There's not a specific one individual high for me. I think it's encompassing all of these things together. I think it's just sitting back thinking, wow, this is unbelievable. I said something to one of our members, Scott Beebe. Scott's been around since almost the beginning. And I shared this with him, and he started laughing, and he said, you know, the truth, Big A, you only know about 10% of what's going on. He said, all of the business dealings, all of the relationships, all of the life transformations, all of the successes, you only know a fraction of those. There's no way. The ripple effect that is happening as a result of Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind Group is going to change generations. And that was such a cool moment for me thinking through that. And it's only because of the men. It's not us. It's not our team. It's not me as an individual. It's the people. It's the organization. And so, thank you for asking. That was a really cherished moment for me.
That's so cool. Yeah, I think for me, I had 3. One was on Friday night, did the keynote, sat down for dinner, and we were sitting together. The way we do the event is we actually sit at tables, right? We break bread together at tables with our individual groups. And our groups have names, which is kind of fun, right? So not everybody does this, but we do this. It's pretty cool. So I'm in a group, my weekly group that I meet with called the Gunslingers. And there's other groups like Co-Pilots and 100%ers, and there's all kinds of True North and The Forge and all kinds of fun names, right? That the guys really kind of rally around. It's kind of fun. Like,
yeah, they
I'm
do.
part of the Forge.
One group came with shirts with their name on it. That was pretty cool.
Yeah,
that was cool. Years ago. That was fun.
Yeah, and but I sat down with the Gunslingers and at our table and had dinner. And there was a guy, one of the guys that's there. He's in our group now. He came as a guest Friday. And he joined eyesight. He was with us yesterday at our call this week. It was crazy. Anyway, cool. Here's a guy that's uber. You would, if you, I could say his name and he'd be like, oh, the guy's uber successful. He's done a great job. And he's very successful, done a great job. And he shows up to the event. And the past couple of weeks have been super, super, super difficult for him. And almost a depressive state at times. And there's reasons for that. He explained why and what was happening, and very deep stuff in his business, big changes he's had to make, and not because of anything that he did wrong. And it was a partner situation. And so he's had to make some big changes, and that affected team members, and he's had to let people go. And it's just crazy. And how much that has affected him. And I've had similar things in the past couple of years of my life. Yeah. And there's another guy sitting at the table speaking into him as well as he's sharing this stuff, asking questions and encouraging and asking more deep questions and challenging his mindset. There's 3 or 4 or 5 of us sitting around that table, and 2 or 3 or 4, probably all the other guys sitting at the table have gone through something similar, not exactly the same, but those in principle, those emotions. And it's like, you just realize in that moment that we're all just human. And what an amazing experience that we all get to make our own decisions inside of our groups. But that idea of all those guys around him were creating these guardrails. And I was like, that was a moment for me where I was like, yes, like this is amazing. Like this experience is amazing. Another thing that I picked up on
The
is,
other member, I was going to say something
yeah,
about that. The other members were loaning him their courage when he
wow,
didn't have any.
that's so true and good. Yeah, who are you? That's a great question. Who are you borrowing courage from? That's a great question for all of us. That's good. And we did that there. It was great. Another thing that I picked up on from the speakers, so we had a couple keynotes and we had, it was called Profit Peaks, you mentioned was our theme. And it was so easy to, one of the guys actually said this to me, and this is where it struck me. He said, when I heard it was about Profit Peaks and I came to this event, it's the first event he'd been to. I came to the event, it was about Profit Peaks. I expected for a lot of talk to be about money. And he said, I bet you a third of the conversation from the platform was about money around profit. And there was so much more around relationship, whether it was a family, whether it was faith related relationship, whether it was our motivation, our why for profits, the greater good, the kingdom. And I was like, yeah, like you're right. And so we talk about profit, the bigger scope of that. And then Curtis on Sunday morning when he spoke, oh my gosh, just like breaking that down and around the idea of, I was just how to look at profit from a spiritual perspective, not just from a monetary perspective. And that was pervasive throughout the whole weekend. And then the last thing,
Wally, what we're trying to do is give everyone a general overview, life of its entirety. It's not just about one. It wasn't just about, like this guy thought it was going to be just about money,
yeah.
right? And that's what the world teaches, right? Oh, come here, we're going to teach you how to make some more money. But man, there is so much more around being profitable than just making more money. And that's the part that we really, really need to hold on to, because all that glitters is not gold. And so we've got to really think through what it is that we're trying to accomplish, why we're trying to accomplish it, who with. Are we doing it from a character and integrity standpoint? Are we blessing other people? Are we helping our family? Are we doing it at the cost of our family? There is just so much more around that. That is the sheer essence of View from the Top. Is like, how can you have this view from the top and do it in a way that you feel great about at the end of the day?
One of the definitions that one of the speakers gave of profit from a professor, I don't know if that's Latin or what it was, but like the origin of the word is an action that gains an advantage. And that actually has nothing to do with money itself.
No.
It can be related to that.
Sure.
But it's not. And I think about, we talked earlier, right? Even in a previous podcast episode, recent one, we talked about the value of investing in our development and budgeting for that and setting aside money for that. And we talked at the beginning about this podcast about just some of the challenge sometimes about going to an event, when no matter what kind of event it is, sometimes our spouses don't quite understand. And for whatever reason. And I can't help but think that being in a group, maybe it's not ISI for you as a listener, maybe it's some other group that you've got all these things we've just talked about work for you in the group that you're in. And I hope that they do. But the idea of an action that gains an advantage, that is ISI Mastermind. ISI Mastermind is profitable for you and your life. And I was just like, that was one of my takeaways. I was just like, I was great. Anyway, super so awesome weekend. We could just sit here and literally talk for another probably 2 hours about it.
I know. We could, what would be fun is to be able to do some follow-ups before the next live event. Then we'll do a podcast after the event. We may do one at the event.
That'd be cool.
In April. That'll be fun. We've got a new date, April 19th, 20th, 21st, and we allow a few guests if that's something that's of interest to you. A lot of the people that came this time were guests and really enjoyed it, had great experience. So if that's something you're interested in, reach out to us at the email address Kevin gave you a little bit earlier. We do open a few spots for guests, so we would love to have you join us as well. Hey, as we end today, just be thinking about how you can be very intentional, not just at these events, but like if you're doing an event yourself, man, put in the reps, do the work, do exactly what we're talking about, plan for it, make it amazing, because people are coming away from their families, they're leaving their businesses. You want it to be amazing. Whether it's an event you're going to, be very intentional. Think through, how can I maximize this time? How can I go and be a giver and not a taker? What is it that I can do and go and share with other people that would encourage them and lift them up? And the natural reciprocity, everyone there is going to be willing to give to you as well. And there is no question in my mind that if you take this attitude with you, you too can leave there and have the view from the top and live a life of success and significance.
Hey, thanks again for listening in today to this episode. If you guys want to connect with us, really the easiest way to do that, and you can even join the conversation with some of the questions that Big A just posed there at the end of our conversation. If you go out to viewfromthetop.com/group, that'll redirect you to a private Facebook group where we're actually posting these questions and having conversations and engaging with each other as other listeners, other business owners, entrepreneurs, those that align with our mission, our vision. And you go there, you join the conversation, you get questions answered, you learn and you grow yourself. And Big A and I are in there. We're popping in there every other day or so, checking out what people are talking about and engaging the conversation as well. So we will hope to see you there. Go to viewfromthetop.com/group. And until next time, have an awesome week.